So welcome to another episode of our Zynga Poker Strategy Guide. What we're doing here is we're taking a look at how the different games on Zynga play and how we can apply these to our real money games. You'll notice that I'm sitting at a $2 million buy-in table right now. It's one of the middle stakes games here on Zynga. There are games that go up to 50 and 100 million buy-ins, but this is a pretty sizable game. You got to play a long time to get to where you've got enough buy-ins for this. I won several tournaments getting here. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the play quality of the players here. Maybe find some spots we can talk about a little bit more in detail. So here we flopped top pair with a weak kicker, and it's a drawy board. And what this is called is traditionally reverse implied odds. Now, a lot of players would bet here, but I'm going to try to take a couple of minutes and explain to you why that's a mistake. So you know what implied odds are. They're the money you'll get when you hit your hand from other players. So if we had a flush draw here, we would have implied odds. Reverse implied odds are the opposite. It's the implied odds other people get against you. There are a lot of hands out there with implied odds right now against us. In fact, I would go so far as to say that we are probably less than 10% to win this hand right now, just because there are 7s, 9s, 4s, overcards of every shape and size with this many players in, flush draws, and so on and so forth. And any one of those hands will hit, and we'll feel compelled to keep playing because we've got top pair. So this is a clear reverse implied odds situation. Typically you want to be able to bet and bet and bet. And see, this is a perfect example of Lance reverse implied odds. We've just hit a set, right? So now we're confident with our hand. Then the flush card comes on the river, and you don't know where you stand anymore. And you actually have what might be considered a really good hand if it was a different hand, if we had a set on a different board. And suffice to say that a pair of threes won it, which is not what I expected, but welcome to Zynga Poker. The secret is we didn't get involved there for any more than our initial investment, which was a blind. Alright, so let's see what we're doing. We got 9-6. Starting to feel out this table. Looks pretty loose, looks pretty limpy. Curious to see how they respond to raises. I'd like to start putting in some raises with monster hands. Looks like we're just going to see a flop here again. We're drawn to a 7, and we're not drawn to the nuts with that 7. Note that we are 200 big blinds deep against most of these players, and what that does for us is it gives us a huge advantage, because you know these players are not good deep stack players. They're not poker champions, but I don't think they realize it's 200 big blinds deep. They don't realize they're going to be asked to overbet to see their top pair down. So we're going to try to use that. We're going to try to play some very deep pots, try to get our stack in. Now to do that, what kind of hands do we need to play? Well, we need to play our suited connectors, we need to play our pocket pairs, things that make sets, broadways, things that make the nuts. And because we are so deep, we can afford to make a raise with some of these hands when we might not have made a raise before. So like under the gun with queen jack offsuit might not be a raising hand in a lot of situations. But when you're this deep, if you think you can get your opponents to put money in the pot, then you can raise with a lot of hands. So we've got ace jack off in the small blind. Ace jack's a great hand. It does make the nuts with queen king 10. Also makes top two pair, which can be a very solid hand. Now, at Risk Oriented, we have the Start Winning seminar, and what the seminar discusses is how many bets you want to put in with certain hands. And I'm not going to give away the secrets because the Start Winning seminar covers all that. But you want to raise to an amount that will allow you to put in as many bets as you want to get your stack in. Somewhere about 70,000 will actually get me pretty close. And we'll see what happens. I'm curious to how these players respond to a large raise. It is being called around the table. So now we do have a almost $400,000 pot in front of us. And we did miss the flop. But with this many players, we cannot afford to let this pot go away. So we're going to bet something like that. What we're representing here is aces. And Sebastian's very short, he'll probably call. Message short, he'll probably call. But we expect to get these two players to fold because they can't afford to go up against aces here. So we do take down the pot with an ace-jack. It's an ace-high, but it's good enough. And we are 500,000 chips richer because of it. That last hand's a spot where it's very easy to get suckered into timid play. You might really, really want to check that flop because there are so many people in, but you really have to maintain the image, especially with a flop that dry and that low. You've got to believe that most players haven't hit it. And even players who did hit it, maybe a player with a middle pair, like sevens, or if you get the 5, maybe he folds, maybe he puts you on aces. And heck, this is Zynga. Maybe pocket 9s folds because he puts you on aces. No help to our hand. So I'm going to play a couple more hands, then I'm going to cut this video off because I think we've got some very good hands to talk about, and I'll have it up on the YouTubes shortly.